I want to wrap up with one last question. And that is, you said, I always say yes, or I'm always willing to jump in. Talk about that for just a second. Like, how did you get that philosophy, and what does that mean? How should people interpret that?
Yeah, because it could be misinterpreted and then get people in trouble or hurt. And I'm not intending anything negative from that. I'm just saying be open and positive and optimistic and open to the possibility that just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. That a lot of other people have their normals that are different than ours, but warrant understanding. But much shallower than that answer would be the way that I met Steve Brewer and the Land Expo guy was years ago at a conference in DC, and it's called Des Moines, DC. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. And every year this group of Des Moines people go to DC all at the same time, about 200 people. And they have their conference, even though they're all from Des Moines, they have it in DC so they can be close to the government and they can have meetings with the legislators and things like that. And Steve was on one of those trips. And it was the first time I met him, and I was there playing music, kind of representing Des Moines, entertaining Des Moines, but also I was plugged into this stuff and I got a lot of energy and inspiration from these people. And he was there, and we did the events, and then went to the hotel bar, and then closed down the hotel bar, and then took some to go to keep the evening going. And there was the National Cattle Congress was also there, and all those guys were in the same hotel, in the same hotel bar, and closed for them. And so we all just got in the same elevator and went up to a room and kept the conversation going. And there was the president-elect of the National Cattle Congress was in the, big hat, big belt buckle, big personality. And we were hanging out, and he started talking about how Montana beef is better than Iowa beef. And I don't have a dog in this fight, really, other than I'm proud of Iowa. But Steve grew up a farm kid and, had raised some cattle. And so they really got to debating about that. And so Steve said, fine, I'll buy one of your calves, but you have to deliver it to me. And he's like, here's a down payment. He gave him $100. They wrote it on a napkin. And the guy's like, all right, I'll bring you a calf next year. And so he did. And he brought this calf to Des Moines, and I was in on this process with them. So I was a partner in the calf, and Steve raised it, and then we served it at a party, and I played the music there, and all that was, there's like no conclusion to this story other than that guy, Bill Donald is his name, and Steve Brewer and the three of us will be lifelong friends because of that,
Hell yeah, man.
And that's just an example of like,
that is the perfect example. So my brother and I found these two guys on Twitter, and they're the Ring brothers, Michael and Joseph Ring. I didn't know anything at all about them. They're just two little circles on Twitter, and they have interesting comments. They talk about things that I think are interesting. I have a book club. They're involved in it. They ding me when my audio is bad, right? They give me a hard time about it. And my brother had the idea. He was like, hey man, let's go up and visit those guys. They run a feedlot in Northern Illinois. Just the next time you're up in town visiting mom and dad, let's just hop in the car and, go up and do that. So we do. We hop in his truck. We head up there. We go meet these guys. This is this weekend. They were amazing. Mm-hmm. They were 25-year-old guys. They lost their parents when they were 7 and 9 years old. And like they had to figure out how to make their way in this world. And you're out there with them talking about their cows and what medicine they provide them and how they do their work. And we got to see their farm and sit down and talk with them. And you think like, I'm going to be friends with those guys for the rest of my life because you just said yes to an adventure.
Yeah. We've all got more in common than we don't, even if it seems like we have nothing in common, like that's all we have to find, those similarities. And then I don't know. I think there's all kinds of opportunities that come from that.
All right. I was going to wrap it up because I'm afraid the tape's going to run out, but I have an interesting comment. I'll be interested to see what you say. So around Valentine's Day, there was a tweet that went up. My brother pointed this out to me, and it was, if you could change sexes for just one day, you could be a woman, what would you do? And like, you go through the quick, like, lewd answers of like, oh, I'd find out what it's like to have sex with another person. But then you start thinking about like, what does your body allow you to do that you don't even think the other person can or can't do? And one of the themes that came up that I observed with a lot of women was they said, I'd like to go out into crowds and not feel afraid. And I was like, my mind was blown, because I don't think about that. Like, that's not something. What do you think? If you were a woman for a day, what is the experience or the setting that you would use your body for to get you into a place that you can't be right now?
Wow, that's a hard question. I've never had that question before.
I ask it because I think like it's easy for us two guys to be like, just say yes to the thing, stay out late drinking beers or go up and visit these random people. But as I'm thinking about it with that question in mind, I don't know if that's great advice for a woman or not. Is it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I said when I suggest that, I'm not suggesting that you don't use common sense or you do things that are dangerous or you, so I get that there's a issue to be worked out there. But I'll just give you a simple answer because it's what popped into my head. I think I've always envied a woman's voice. So it might be obvious since this is what I do is sing, but I would love to be able to sing like that.
What is it that you perceive to be different? What a great answer, by the way. The ability to be like totally beautiful and almost delicate, but also super powerful and loud. And so I feel like more often in women's voices, they have this incredible range, and it can be so pretty, but also just so moving and powerful. So that was profound, man. I am so glad you said yes. Thank you so much for coming by the podcast,
thank you for inviting me.
I absolutely cannot believe how great this was. So take a little bit of time. How can people find your music? I want to play that song with the dates at the end of this
I'm
podcast.
still here.
I'm still here.
It's sort of written, that song is definitely written for someone who's been with us like for the long ride, but that's not to say that you can't get something from it if you're just discovering us for the first time. But, it talks about our sort of path for this time. But, and that song is on our latest record, which is now 2 years old, called One Louder. But we have a website, thenadas.com, that's generally updated and has tour dates.
And that's NADA.com?
THENADAS.com.
Okay.
Yep, thenadas.com. I would say we're way more active on like our Facebook page and Instagram and things. We're constantly putting stuff on there. So if people are into those channels, it's there.
Yeah, man. My I use Twitter a lot, but I always check in on Instagram. I feel like it's more for the artists.
And we should use Twitter more. We do have a presence on Twitter, and we have a little bit of action on there from time to time. We definitely check it. We just don't post to it as much.
Yeah, I think Twitter is more of like written ideas. I don't know. But I'll definitely check you out. And on Twitter, you're the Nadas again?
Yep.
Okay. Man, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome.